All right. Is everybody ready? Is there anything else? My wife always lets me know if anything else is missing. Am I missing anything? There is one thing that's missing. Today, one of our elders, it's her birthday. And Carla Mullen is one of the greatest people you'll ever meet. And today we celebrate her birth. Since I want to stay safe, I will not guess to how old she is. But we celebrate you. We're so thankful for you. And so thankful for your family. So thank you, Carla. Thank you for being here with us. All right. And we have spring cleanup today. On her birthday. That's her birthday present. So if you can, I have brought extra clothes. I will not be going out like this. But if you can stay and clean, we have certain areas that need cleaning. Ben and like it was said, Ben and Tim have done a ton of work outside. There still does need to be some things done outside, but the more hands we have working, the less time it takes, and the sooner we can get done, and I'll go home and pass out from exhaustion. So let's stay and do that, okay? That'll be following service immediately, and it's also just so you know, that makes a great excuse for you to be in the altar and spend like all day in the Spirit, just knocked out in the Holy Ghost. If you're laid out in the Holy Ghost, I don't expect you to work. Just saying. So, okay. We're going to eat too. So, that's all taken care of. All right. We're going to Mark chapter 1. We are back in our little in and out study of Mark. By the way, if you've visited over the last 2 weeks and this is your third time here, I am Pastor David Eyre. I have not been here much. We've been doing encounters, so I am the senior pastor here, the lead pastor, and I am so glad that you're here. So Mark chapter 1, starting in verse 9. I am NIV all the way through for all of you who like the nearly inspired version. I'm in it all day today. Somebody got that. Anyway. Verse 9. At that time, Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John, meaning John the Baptist, in the Jordan. Just as Jesus was coming out of the water, he saw heaven being torn open and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." At once the Spirit sent him into the wilderness, and he was in the wilderness 40 days being tempted by Satan. He was with wild animals, and angels tended him. Okay. I want to talk to you for a little bit today about this section of verses, focusing specifically on the fact that Jesus is baptized and there's a declaration from heaven. And I like the King James, "You are my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." We're going to just talk today about being accepted. That you are his beloved children. So many times, guys, this life, as we grow, there are expectations on us. And like all of us, I am imperfect. I find that I have a very high standard in my own life, and I have always striven to be my best. I have worked very hard to do the things that I've done, and that started as a child, and part of that had to do with probably feeling like I never quite measured up. Like I always was being critical. Somebody was criticizing me about something that I was doing. Sometimes it was my dad about my grades, or it was my teacher about some elements of my behavior. And I often felt like I couldn't quite measure up. And I feel like so many times that's all of our stories. No matter how wonderful you are, how amazing amazing you present yourself, no matter how polished your halo. We all are seeking affirmation about who we are. We're seeking acceptance. There was a time when Denise and I were traveling. The girls were very young. Mariah was probably 3. Gabrielle was about 5. And we were at a church in Mansfield, Ohio. And there were, it was a church of about 100 people. And we used to go there fairly frequently and preach. And there were several Latin families there. And if you don't know, I'm half Mexican. So I have one daughter. If you don't know Gabi, she looks more like me. She's darker. She looks more Latin. And then my beautiful daughter, Mariah, looks more like my wife. She's a little lighter complected. She calls herself the white Mexican. So she was only about 3. Gabi was about 5. We were preaching it. And afterward, they invited us to have dinner. We were going to have like this big church social thing. And there's food from all over. We're eating. We're hanging out. And Gabrielle and Mariah, they sit down with all the kids. And a lot of these kids, if you know anything about Latin families, we tend to have good amount of babies. And they're all cute, too, by the way, just saying. And so all of these little Latin kids are at this table with my daughters. And there's Gabrielle and there's Mariah. And Gabi looks at all of these Mexican children. And she looks at them and says, I'm Mexican, but my sister's white. And just throw her under the bus. Yes, she's the different one. No. So there's something about, guys, there's something about us wanting to be accepted. There's something about that even as a child, here's this little 5-year-old girl who had always had friends and always been, somebody who connected with other kids, but she sees these other people and she wants to be accepted by them, even if it means throwing her sister under the bus. And we all have a little bit of that. We want to be accepted. And this gets particularly hard sometimes when we look at God and His Word and His perfection. If you look at this book, about 2/3 of it is in the Old Testament. And the picture that we have there of God is that God is a God of rules. That God is a God that has these very stringent parameters through which you have to live. And that those things are there, and if you don't follow them, then bad things happen. That if you follow God's rules and you check all the boxes, that you end up in a place that's blessed and okay and you're alive. And if you don't, you might not, including might not be alive. And we need to understand something new today. Because the way that most of us come to God, we come to Him looking at 2/3 of the book. We know the 10 Commandments, and if you're like me, you're trying to figure out which one you haven't broken. It's not about how good I've been, it's about how, which ones didn't I break? And if the standard of God's acceptance of me is my performance by His list of rules, then you have no business listening to what I've got to say. Because I was a mess. Completely messed up before Jesus found me. It's not by the rules, folks. The rules are good. The rules create understandings of what God wants for you. The Father is a good Father. He's a good Father, like the song says. And the thing is, it's like, just like any father, if you love your children, you set parameters, you tell them not to play in the street. You tell them not, to touch the hot stove. You have all of these things that you tell them because you want to make sure that they are not going to end up hurt. And the thing is that those parameters that God set in the Old Testament, they're good. They're good. says that if the law could give life, then he would have done it through the law. But the law only brings condemnation. It only shows you where you failed. The law only tells you where you made a mistake. It doesn't come along, the law doesn't come along and say, David, you did a good job. You helped that little old lady come out of the store and you grabbed her bag. It doesn't come up and say, you did a good job when you picked up the trash that was laying in the middle of the parking lot. It just tells me when I did something bad. So the law never gave life, but the law does give us parameters that allows for God to bless us. Right. Amen? That's right. If you do what God says, then you get hurt less. There's less brokenness in you. I remember we were winning a couple when we were first starting our church in Ohio. There was a really, really, really good Catholic guy that had really lived his life devoted to Jesus Christ. He just never put his faith in him. You follow me? There's a lot of good people that maybe never put their faith in Jesus. And we're teaching this Bible study to him and to his wife. And his wife was kind of a wild child. She's more like, this guy. And he's more like that pretty little girl over there. And he said to me, after I told him about putting his faith in Jesus and trusting the Lord for salvation, he said this. He said, well, then why did I give my whole life? If it doesn't matter, if I can't work my way into heaven, then why did I bother being so good? I said, bro, do you know how much less garbage you got to deal with?
That's right. Preach it.
So the law is good. If you've been good, be good. If you've not been good, well, be good anyway. But see, I want you to hear this. You can't be good enough.
That's right.
To ever earn God's favor. You can't be good enough ever to earn God's approval. See, but this is the beauty. Are you ready? We got 2 weeks before Easter. This is the message. See, Jesus came to give you grace.
Yes.
So that, hear this, you can never earn God's approval, but because he came, you already have it.
Yes. Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
Wherever you are, whatever your mess looks like, if you're like that good Catholic boy who never sinned, did his best to live for God all through his life, you just never put your faith in him fully, or if you're a complete mess like I was when I got saved, whatever your story, Jesus came so that you could find acceptance. And that is the good news. Now I want you to follow me with this little idea. See, Jesus, before he did anything, before he raised the dead, before he opened blinded eyes, opened a deaf ear, had the lame walk, before he preached his first message, Jesus shows up at a river one day. And John the Baptist is there, and he's baptizing people. And Jesus comes to him and says, I need to be baptized by you. And John protests a little bit. I'm going to be baptized by you, Jesus. And he's like, no. This needs to be done so that everything can be right. And so John finally decides that he's going to allow for Jesus to be baptized by him. He baptizes the Christ, the Son of God. And out of heaven, he hears a voice. It says that only John and Jesus heard it. Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Those are the words that are spoken over Jesus. You are my Son that I love, and I am pleased with you. Before Jesus did anything, before Jesus preached his first sermon, before he did anything, his testimony from heaven was that he was loved. And Jesus comes, hear this, Jesus comes so that when we come, we can have the same kind of grace with God. Jesus comes to give people just like me and just like you that kind of grace, that kind of favor, that kind of acceptance. God wants for us to understand that there is nobody in this room that when you come to him, he won't accept.
That's right.
We need to understand that so that we can begin to act on it.
Yes.
Because too many times, you hear your friends, if you invite somebody to church for Easter, they'll go, oh, I can't come to that church. Lightning will strike that church. You can just tell them right off the bat, hey bro, don't worry, lightning already struck our church, we're good. The thing is this, there's nobody that doesn't have an open invitation from Jesus.
That's right.
We get to where we feel like sometimes we're beyond God's help, but Jesus came to go past the law. He came to go past our performance. He came to go past how good you've done to give you grace. And because you've been offered grace, there's nothing that can stand in the way of what God wants to do for you. Throughout Jesus' life, he extended grace to other people who felt like they were, hear this, they felt like they were untouchable. They felt like they were beyond help. I want you to share a couple quick stories with you to illustrate this. When you look at Luke 7, there's a story of a sinful woman. It says that this woman came to the Pharisee's house. Jesus had been invited by the Pharisee to come over to lunch. And they're eating there, and everything is going well. They're having a nice little time together. And suddenly this woman comes in. We don't know what she looked like. We don't know how she was dressed. All that we know is that her attitude and approach was one of brokenness. One where it was clear by her approach that she did not feel like she was worthy to be there. She comes up from behind Jesus, and she begins to cry. And her tears begin to water his feet. And she, in crying over him, and her tears coming onto his dirty feet from walking through the streets of Jerusalem and throughout the countryside, begins to create streams where his feet are being cleansed. She takes her hair. She must have had long hair. She takes her hair and she begins to wipe his feet. Wash his feet with her tears and with her hair. All the things that were from the street, all the manures of camels and donkeys, and all those things, that dirt, all of those things was on Jesus' feet. And she's wiping and crying and cleaning his feet. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Can you imagine the load she was carrying? And the Pharisee says something really interesting. He said, when the Pharisee, verse 39, who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who was touching him and what kind of woman she is. She is a sinner. See, that's what religion wants to do.
Yes.
Religion wants to put you in a box and categorize you. If he'd have been a real prophet, he'd know what kind of woman she is. Jesus knew what kind of woman she was.
Yes.
But he also knew this. He knew the kind of woman she was becoming.
Oh, hallelujah.
Evidently, this woman had a reputation that preceded her. Some of you might associate with that a little bit. What were you known for? What is your story? What do people think when they hear your name? The reality is this woman has a reputation. But what's awesome is with Jesus, the reputation is not what matters. It's never what you've done that matters to Jesus. What matters is where you are right now. And where she was at his feet, washing his feet with her tears. So Jesus does this. He turned, verse 44. He turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house and you didn't give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her sins are many. They have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little. Then Jesus said to her, your sins are forgiven. And Jesus said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. You see, it didn't matter what she brought in. Hear me. What mattered is what she brought to Jesus. There's times you need to hear this. The reason that sometimes, and I pray that we just start breaking out. I pray that our worship just begin to break out. I pray that we just start getting loose. Because the reality is this. Sometimes all that you're waiting for, all that God has to give you is on the other side of your worship.
Come on.
It's just on the other side of you getting loose and getting free. That woman didn't care about what anybody thought about her. She didn't worry about, Susie's going to think I'm just, lost my mind. They're going to talk about me down in Chatterbox tomorrow if I go just a little ballistic over Jesus. That's why it's called Chatterbox. But she didn't worry about what it was that people might say about her. What she worried about was only what Jesus would say about her. What she worried about was only that she could come and that she could offer the only thing she had. She could give of her perfume upon his feet, and she could wash his feet with her tears. But in that worship, Jesus accepts her. And she becomes free. The woman that was rejected by society because she was a woman of reputation, because she was that kind of woman.
Come on.
Jesus loves back.
Yes.
And accepts. Another man mentioned in the scriptures who's somebody who's on the outs in society is Zacchaeus. For anybody who knows the story, it's found in Luke chapter 19. And Zacchaeus is a tax collector. Zacchaeus is a man who is an Israelite. He's a Jew. And he is doing almost the unpardonable sin. He is in league with the Roman government. He is a tax collector that is taking money from his fellow Israelites. He's collecting money and he's giving it to the Romans. And what people don't realize, I don't know that anybody here likes a tax collector. If we have anybody in the IRS, we will be praying for you specifically over the next couple of weeks. Because I'm sure that it's tough. I've got a cousin who works for IRS, and she says it's not all that fun sometimes. But see, what's different about the way that we collect taxes now is that there's formulas and there's set amounts and all this stuff. And where back then, what the Roman government would do is they'd tell the tax collector, they'd say, we need this much money. Let's just say, we need $10 for every person that comes through this gate. That's the tax. But whatever money you get on top of that, that's your pay. So how many know that if you want to be a tax collector and you want to be rich, you are doing some damage to your folks? You're taking extra money. And And that's what's going on. Zacchaeus, and not just Zacchaeus, but also just, Matthew. The book of Matthew is written by the man, an apostle Matthew, who was named Levi, who was also a tax collector. Jesus loves tax collectors. But this man Zacchaeus, he's a little guy. And he's working in Jericho. And he hears that Jesus is coming. And so because he's little, much shorter than me, he can't see over the crowd to see this prophet from Nazareth. And so he makes a decision. He goes over and he sees the way that Jesus is coming, and so he scurries up a tree and climbs out on a limb, and he's looking at this man, this prophet, that everybody's talking about. They say he can raise the dead, and that he prays and lepers get cleansed, and he needs to see this guy. So he put himself in position to be able to see. But he also put himself in position to be able to be seen. Where the rest of the people thought of him as a traitor, where they talked about sinners and prostitutes in the same breath as tax collectors, he puts himself in a position out on a limb to see Jesus. And Jesus, because he sees the desire in this man's heart to see him and then engage with him, Jesus reaches out and says, Zacchaeus, today, I'm eating lunch at your house. And what's crazy, check it out, verse 7 of chapter 19. It says, all the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. It's like, all of the best, we have a lot of wonderful people here, but there's times that, if you're inviting someone to go eat, it's like that, and all of a sudden you pass them all up to go hang out with the crazy person in Canton or Troy or wherever else you might be from. You passed up the accepted for the rejected. That's what Jesus did. Jesus is literally choosing someone who is rejected over those that maybe have good reputation. And he's not afraid, again, of criticism or condemnation or of his reputation. He wanted to reach someone where they lived. He wanted to reach someone in the place where they were. Past everything else, Zacchaeus is massively affected. Because Jesus simply said, I'll go to lunch with you, Zacchaeus. We're going to have lunch at your house. What's funny about this whole thing is, Zacchaeus, by the way, you're buying. And Zacchaeus is like, cool, man. I need that anointing. But see, this is the amazing thing. Just in Jesus reaching out to this man who's rejected by his whole culture, the effect on him is tremendous. He says this. He says, I will give half of my wealth to the poor. And he said, if I have stolen anything from anybody, I'll pay it back 4 times. See, Jesus, because he came, instantly changed the direction of this man's life. And there's times that you might know someone who doesn't know what to do, that they look like they're completely lost, like there's no chance of them getting saved. All you need to do is create a place for Jesus to come. I'm one of those guys, just so you know, folks, a friend of mine, when he became my friend later, Steve Campbell, said to my friend Mark, many of you know Mark, the story about Mark, how Mark led me to the Lord. And when Mark was trying to reach me, Steve Campbell, my good friend Steve Campbell, looked at me and said, if God can save David Ayer, he can save anybody. You don't know. You don't know that person who looks like the craziest one, That person who looks like maybe the one who's got it all together, the one who couldn't possibly get it together. All that they need is for Jesus to look their way. And they'll never be the same. But we've got to give them the opportunity. We've got to be the ones who offer out the opportunity for them to engage with Him. And when we do, He'll change their lives.
Yes.
The last story that I want to share with you is from John chapter 8, verses 2 through 11. It says, at dawn, He appeared again, meaning Jesus appeared again in the temple courts where all the people were gathered around. And He sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. I actually like how the King James says it better. It says, caught in the very act of adultery. And they made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commands us to stone such a woman. Now, what do you say? They're using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing Him. And it looks like a no-win situation if Jesus says what the law said. Because in Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10, it says very clearly, if a man commits adultery with another man's wife, with the wife of his neighbor, both the adulterer and the adulteress are to be put to death.
Yes.
There's a death sentence on this woman right now. And if Jesus denies what the law says, then it's clearly he's not from God. But if he says, let's do what the law says, then this woman is going to die right now under a pile of stones. It looks like there's no way out for either Jesus or this woman. This woman is going to die. And as the men are milling around and gathering stones, preparing for what is going to come next, the judgment that comes from the Old Testament, the judgment from God, suddenly Jesus comes up. It says that he just got up. It says when they kept questioning him, verse 7, he straightened up and said to them, let anyone who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. See, when everyone else wants to cast stones at you, when everyone else wants to cast stones at me, when they look at what we've done and they cast their judgment, and our fate is sealed in their opinion, God suddenly comes in. Jesus stands in our defense and simply says this: you think you're so wonderful? Whoever among you is perfect, whoever among you is without sin, you be the first one to cast the stone. It says that this, verse 9, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with a woman still standing there. And Jesus straightened up and asked her, woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She said, no one, sir. Then neither do I condemn you, Jesus declared. Go now and leave your life of sin. See what's awesome? I want you to hear this. Of the crowd that gathered that day, of all the people that were standing around carrying their stones, the only one who was worthy to cast one was the only one not carrying one. The only one who was worthy to cast the stone on that woman because he was without sin, was the only one not carrying a stone to throw. You may feel like the world's against you in so many ways. You may feel like you're alone and you couldn't do anything right if you had to. There's been days I felt like that. There's been years I felt like that. But the reality is this: you could never do anything to earn God's favor. If you feel like you couldn't do anything right in God's sight, you are right. You can. But what's awesome is that now that Jesus has come, you don't have to. At Jesus' baptism, the Father called out from heaven and said, "This is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased." And Jesus came to give you that kind of acceptance. So I want you to hear this. When you come to Jesus trusting him, you are now accepted like that.
Yes. Thank you, Lord.
And this is what I want you to know. All of this has just brought us to this one point. I want you to hear this. If you forget everything else I told you today, never forget this. I want you to know this. Whatever you're facing, your Father has called you his beloved child.
Yes.
And because he's called you that, when you have your Father in heaven's approval, you can face anything. After Jesus heard those words, it says the Spirit drove him out to the wilderness, where he was tempted of the devil 40 days. See, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It didn't matter because the reality is he already knew, he already heard that he was accepted, that he was beloved, that he had pleased the Father, and that nothing else, no matter what he was going to face, nothing else was going to be able to change that. And some of you today, right now, are struggling with things. And you feel like you can't possibly make it over. But this is the thing. You need to know this one thing. Your God has declared over you. You are my beloved child. And I am well pleased with you. And because of that, you can face anything.
Yes. Thank you.
What are you facing? What giant is calling you out, saying that you can't win? I want you to know you've already won, because you've been accepted in Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
And so right now, I want us just to stand, and I'm going to pray for you, and God's going to move and begin to minister. There's people right now God's speaking to, and there's people right now, you know you're struggling with stuff. You know that you're feeling under the weight of attack. But I want you to hear me right now. In God saying that you're his beloved, he's already declared the victory over you. You've already won. The blood of Jesus has already cleansed you of all sin. The resurrection has already empowered you with his Spirit. The death, hell, and the grave have already been defeated. It is just a matter of you stepping out and finishing the battle. But from now on, you got to go out knowing that you've already won. Thank you. So right now, let's pray. Father, I thank you. Thank you that, Lord, I'm not good enough. Thank you, I've never been good enough. On my best day, my best is as filthy rags before you, Lord. My best is just dirty clothes that smell and putrid. But you, Lord Jesus, came and you declared me holy, and you declared me pure, and you declared me righteous, and most of all, you declared me yours. you declared me yours. And when you declared me yours, and you said that I was your son, I became a prince in the kingdom. And knowing that I was yours, Lord Jesus, it's empowered me to face everything I've ever faced. And I give you praise. And right now, Lord, across this room, I rebuke the things that would hold people back, that would make them see themselves as less than what you called them, your beloved child. And I declare the victory of Jesus Christ over their lives. I declare right now, whether you're in this room or you're watching over the internet, wherever you are right now, in Jesus' name, I declare the victory over you, because you can face anything. Once you know you've been accepted in the beloved, that you've been accepted by Jesus Christ, that you've been accepted by God, you can face anything. And I just loose that faith in you. I loose it. I set you free in Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. The band's going to sing. If you need prayer, if there's things going on, if you need freedom, I want you to come. And I just want you to come just expecting God just overshadow you. He's just going to come, and he's just going to come over you. His Spirit is going to touch you, and he is going to strengthen you. God wants you to know that he's yours and you're his. And because of that, whenever you face whatever you're going to face, he's already with you right now. Amen.
When the sun sets free, all is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. When the sun sets free, all is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Who am the highest peak? Who am I was lost, but he brought me in. His love for me. His love for me. The sun sets free. He's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free and mercy has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. I was a slave to sin. Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. My Father's house is a place
a bunch of people that I just see tethered. You're tethered. It's like the Macy's Day Parade, but all those balloons they're held down to the ground by tethers. And I see so many of you that God wants to just cut you loose and let you soar, and yet you're allowing for the tethers to hold you back. I'm going to pray one more time. If you have tethers on you, I want you to come forward and I want you to break through. I want you to, because it's not, hear me, it is not hard for God to cut your tethers. This is easy. But you have to be willing to allow for Him to cut these tethers. And so if you want these tethers broken, so that you can step into the freedom that God's really got for you, I want you to come forward as an act of faith. Somebody might pray for you, somebody might not pray for you. I'm going to pray for you from here. The Holy Ghost doesn't need anybody to lay hands on you. All you need is to decide that these tethers are not going to hold you back anymore. If that's you, come now. Now this is your time. I want you to just be alone with the Lord. So right now, find your own space. Find your own space. I just want you to do this. I want you to just lift your hands. And I want you just to ask Jesus to come. Just ask Jesus to come. Let the Holy Spirit come. And if you're up here to pray for somebody, first off, let me say this. I don't want anybody praying for anybody else right now. I want you to be praying for you. I want you to get yours. And just let the Holy Ghost come. God's Spirit wants to come right now. Okay. Right now, Holy Spirit, come. Holy Ghost, come. Minister to your children right now. In Jesus' name. By the power of the name of Jesus, I break the tethers that have held you back. In Jesus' name right now, I declare freedom right now. By the power of the name of Jesus, the blood of Jesus sets you free. Blood of Jesus set these folks free. I break curses. I break every limitation. And Holy Ghost, move more. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. Push him. Don't settle for less. Right now, in Jesus' name. Right now, in Jesus' name. Right now, in the name of Jesus, I break all of us free. And I declare in the name of Jesus Christ, you are accepted. You are a beloved child. God's judgment is not against you. God's judgment is for you. He loves you. Father, bless your children today. In Jesus' name. If you need to go, my daughter right there, just go through those doors. There's food in the fellowship hall. If you want to stay and pray, stay. If you need something, Jesus is here. If you want to go eat, you're welcome to. Brad's praying for the food when you get in there. So go get lunch right now. If you need ministry,